How do you imagine Project Jesus 2025 or 2024 or any year on the calendar? In 1993, when I was 26 years old, during the month of January, I went on a month-long retreat. It was a silent retreat, the spiritual exercises of Saint Ignatius. The beauty of Gloucester, the coastlines, the rocky trails was glorious. And so was the beauty of silence. We had our meals in silence. We got to spend the entire time, except for when we met one-on-one with our spiritual director, 1 hour each day was in silence with beautiful music. And it was during these 4 weeks, the rhythms, the stages of the spiritual exercises of Saint Ignatius, that I encountered the Lord in a very profound way, in a new way. I allowed him to reveal himself to me as if for the first time. On week 1, I've already spoken about the revelation of the depths of our sinfulness and our need for God's mercy and forgiveness and companionship. And this week, the incarnation, God becoming human in the person of Jesus. It's all about his values, his friends, his teaching, and his overall life witness. In a word, his humanity. We know that Jesus was fully human. And the second week, we really get to know Jesus, the human being, Jesus, the man. And let me share 3 takeaways or quick condensed points about the second week and coming to know Jesus. First, Jesus' friends are not quite our friends, our cultural or societal friends. 2, Jesus has a different perception and viewpoint of good and evil. And 3, Jesus integrates and balances so perfectly rest and action. Let me touch on each of these briefly. The first one, Jesus goes to the margins. He becomes friends, good friends, with people whom society rejects or fears, makes outcasts, like prostitutes and tax collectors, people with all sorts of infirmities, the sinners. And one story that I think conveys this, lots of stories, is the way Jesus spends time in dining, eating with people and healing people, spending quality time with people who are on the margins of society. And Jesus looks at good and evil not through a puritanical lens of purity codes and black versus white. He spends time accepting, listening to their stories, knowing their full stories. For example, he spends time with women. He spends time with tax collectors. I love the story of Jesus who, when he was confronted with a woman caught in adultery and the Mosaic law was to stone her to death, disarms everyone when he says, he who without sin should cast the first stone. And Jesus tells us that the last will be first. And he tells us that the sinners, the prostitutes, and the tax collectors are entering the kingdom, the children are entering the kingdom of heaven faster than the religious authorities are. And Jesus goes to the mountains by himself. He goes to the seashore. He goes to the forest. He spends quality time alone during the day and at night, different periods. And he balances that deep rest, that deep communion with his Holy Father, his intimate Abba, with the bold action, raising the dead, healing the sick, proclaiming good news to all people who are saddened by life, who are rejected and persecuted by society. These are bold actions, and Jesus needs the rest. He needs the balance. All these things, Jesus' intimate friends, the way Jesus views good and evil, the way Jesus balances rest and holy action, are different from the rhythms of the world. Quite so. And I dare say that it's not something that we are comfortable with. Our understanding of who Jesus is, so countercultural, is a huge challenge for all of us. to really trust that our friends can be Jesus' friends, that our perceptions of inclusion and mercy and forgiveness and how Jesus approaches good and evil can be our values, and that we can learn to integrate deep rest, deep Sabbath rest in contemplation as the basis, the foundation for all our works and actions. So this is not easy for any of us, and I have struggled, even though it's been 31 years since I made those exercises. It's been rocky for me to reclaim the memories of how intimate Jesus revealed his tenderness, his love for me in my day-to-day. There have been times in my life I've more or less completely forgotten who Jesus is, and I've gone astray. It's so easy to see how ubiquitous this going astray is. There's this ubiquitous placard I've seen on TV recently that says, "Mass deportation now." Could anything be more antithetical to who Jesus is, more horrifying, and counter universal human dignity and justice than that placard? It's not about the fact that it would completely undermine our economy, throw us into destabilization when you've got 10 million or more people rounded up, and people who work in every industry, essential services that our lives depend upon. These are human beings, and Jesus tells us that blessed are the stranger. What you do to the least, what you do to the stranger, you do to me. We need to know the stories, listen to the stories, and understand the whole picture, the background of our friends who are among migrants and who give so much to our society, give so much to our community. And when we truly embrace Jesus' values and Jesus' friends and have an altered or a more focused understanding of what really is the difference between good and evil, good, the beautiful, and the true go together, then we can see how much amazing transformations, miracles happen in history and politically. How the Nazi rule was collapsed, how the Roman Empire collapsed, how slavery was abolished, how the dignity and empowerment of women receiving the right to vote happened. And we see how it can continue to happen if we truly focus our hearts and our minds on who Jesus is, what he stands for, who his friends are. Comprehensive immigration reform that truly reveres the human dignity of all participants, all stakeholders, can happen. And so much more good can happen. Division can turn to unity. The earth can be respected in a powerful way where you can have healthy and holy policies enacted for the good of our planet and for good of all humanity, especially the outcasts, especially Jesus' most dear friends.